In between the lines, part 2. You'll notice that a lot of times in these various chapters, I keep hitting upon this thing of the problem. And I had something I wanted to fill in. I might add it to this chapter later in the book, but not here. I'd have to go back and change the picture story I put together and post it here on YouTube. I didn't want to do that, but later on, should I ever print this book, this would be added to it. It's called The Problem versus Solution, the unseen versus the seen. I wrote here, I've always said that if you don't see the problem, you don't gain the solution. Well, we could come at it looking around us in 1,000 different ways and still not see the problem. You see it today in society. I'm not reading from the article right now. But, we see in society, there's 1,000 different schools of thought, self-help, and secular and religious approaches to finding the real solution of mankind's problem. I feel that the book of we call the Bible, this revelation of God, gives us the problem, addresses the solution. That's because God created, He sustains, and someday He'll consummate this will. I mean, if there's anyone you should turn to find out what the real problem is in this life, you'd think you'd go to the Bible. Yeah, people got turned off, and they try to call it the book of myths, and they try to throw out the Genesis records, especially. You see all the attacks on the book of Genesis. If there's ever been a satanic drive to wipe out the Bible, it's been on this attack of the book, the foundational book of Genesis. If the foundations be removed, how shall the righteous stand? If you don't know the problem, I don't care what kind of solution you come up with, you're not addressing the real problem. You have to know the real problem. So I write here, others could blame others and still we wouldn't see the problem. The problem appears to be intangible and something that affects everyone who is born on this planet. Some will come to see its truth, others may never see it. We have hope in the nobility of mankind, yet we equally see the cruelty of mankind. Its cause, I believe, apart from a revelation come to us, as I just said, from someone not having been affected by the problem, or let's call it the condition, it would never have been seen. It is this very revelation which I speak of that reveals this unknown matter of this condition. It's been said that there was a generation before this generation. Now I want to get into, it's talking about comparing the biblical, that age before the biblical flood compared to the age of the day. What was the difference of Adam's day, then after the flood, in the days of Noah and our generations? It's been said that there was a generation before this one, which a worldwide destructive flood erased all but 8 individuals from the surface of this planet. It is said that that generation also had this condition which we speak of. The only difference between this generation now and that one on the other side of this flood is that their generation possibly didn't have a written revelation to identify their real problem. The only way available to them was what's called the conscience, an inward knowing that something was wrong. Yet through time, this conscience could be seared to the point where it died, thus no more conscious or uneasy feeling to assist them in discovering the real problem. It is said that at one time men were able to communicate to a higher intelligence over them. Not only was this higher being intelligent, but also personal, in that a conversation between humanity and this being could come about with real emotions. It was said that this being loved humanity, that this love was something more than just emotional. This being's actions, as strange as it may sound, its actions to destroy that will was an act of love. You may think, what kind of being would that be? One he would destroy and call it love. Let me show you what happened, and hopefully you understand why this being did what he did. I use he, for at this moment of destruction, this being was seen in the eyes of humanity as masculine. It was what they had become, rulers over feminine. And
idea with this matter of God being both male and female in another chapter of another book. I won't go into it right here now. So let me continue reading what I have here. It appears that the real problem started in this area of communication with this being. Mankind, cut off from this being, left to their own reasoning ability and conscience, declined not only in the ability to reason rationally, but also emotionally, ending up without natural affections. Thus they were unable to sense something was wrong. This overlapped to where it also affected their bodies. So what was once natural became unnatural. A distortion what was originally intended. For one example, what once was a male-female relationship changed to men with men and women with women. This didn't happen overnight. Over time, without a clear communication with this higher personal being and a revelation, which they call Creator, left to their seared conscience, manifestations of mankind's condition spread to the point where every imagination of mankind's thoughts were set free. This uneasy feeling, which we have come to call guilt, ended. Thus each did what he or she wanted with no regard to right or wrong. It was only a matter of one's opinion against another's. Survival of the fittest. Now, as I write this, as I read this, it kind of rings in my mind of the local and world news we see or read every night. This condition I've mentioned definitely is around us. Many are attempting to address it by blaming it on just about anything one might imagine, yet its root is slowly dying. You see today in this education system, you turn out the Word of God, You turn out the idea of absolutes. You do that. And we're looking at the results as you watch the news or read the newspaper. What do I mean by dying? More and more, any idea of an absolute is finding rejection. Any source of ultimate truth is also being rejected. Things once viewed as ultimate, reliable sources of truth are no longer viewed as such. Everything is open to personal feelings, opinions, and interpretation. You hear it, well, that's just your opinion. We all have opinions, and we have to respect everyone's opinions, right? Let me pause a minute. To not be tolerant of the opinions on matters today, you're considered judgmental, thinking you're better in your ideas and matters than others. Who you think you are anyway? It's just your opinion. To speak up and claim you have the truth, you are soon shot down or ignored. You get a drift what Paul implied with his generation, what is truth. With what is being taught as truth in our educational system, no wonder most believe that there isn't any such thing as absolute truth. Hey, throw out any idea of an intelligent supreme being, and that's what you get. It comes down to where each does what each sees is right in their own mind, or is based on a 51% of a majority, or even worse, a strong small elite. I see the latter to be the case in this generation. Ask yourself, who's really running this show? If I think about it, who's running the show today? Local and national government, If you still believe this lie, then let me tell you another. Our thinking is you can get the answer if given a little more time, maybe billions of years as we have been taught from grade school and up. Billions of years of death and dying and the survival of the fittest will answer our problems. It's this lie that has us in this dilemma today. We're heading in a direction away from the answer. Now you start seeing the attacks. Here's what I write about the attacks, on the religious people. Sure, you could twist around and blame the religious folks. They are the ones who in the past have fought so-called holy wars in the name of God and the truth. Okay? Then let's throw them out, along with their religious book or books. Good riddance, right? Right? No, this wouldn't solve the problem. Imagine a non-religious world. Believe me, they once did. They call it the Age of Enlightenment. Now, Dr. Francis Schaeffer, in his book, The God Who's There and the God Who's There Who Is Not Silent, and I think there's a trilogy book he wrote. That's two of them. The other one was Beyond Escape from Reason was his other book. Read those three books and it traces history into this age of enlightenment. Many of our problems today stem back to these so-called great thinkers. It got so bad back then that they had to admit that humans need some kind of religious element in order to survive. They call it the leap of faith. Now, you can get into Kierkegaard and the rest of them now. They talk about this thing of the leap of faith. It came about because of what is coined the age of despair. Dr. Shepard brought this out. This definition of the word despair is powerful. By despair, they meant this: having hope, knowing there is no hope, yet still hoping. That, my friend, is the result of the age of so-called human enlightenment. Humanity has never recovered from this, and today is living in a false sense of hope that rests in the seen only. I've seen, Paul said that, don't look upon the things of seen. The things of seen are temporary. What's really important is the things that are not seen. They're eternal matters. All this body exercise can profit to some degree, but godliness, seeing this unseen hope, and understanding the meaning, purpose, and intent behind this whole life and experience through a revelation that God's given us to bring it some meaning and understanding, showing us the problem, how to solve the problem, how to get about our lives, and to get through this experience and go on with the ultimate intent of God, which extends beyond time, space, and the material world. In just this 6,000 to 7,000 year period, it extends on to eternity. All right, let's get back to my reading here now. They say there's no unseen or afterlife or anything that matter, they claim. Anything of that matter, they claim. That which is seen has eaten it up. Now, Schaeffer does a good job. He shows you how reasoning had ate up grace. God, he gives an explaining that. You have to read the three books. That age of enlightenment, and he traced it to art and philosophy and teachings of men, how things changed, how the seen ate up the unseen, this world and this life and this experience.
So see, here's what they did. Now the only hope is with men in a world without God or true hope, which they claim to think they know. So say anything to the contrary, you get strange looks, or people quickly change the subject matter to things pressing in the seen world. They avoid you like the plague. So as I contemplate these matters in my observation of the world around me, I can't help but think, where do people think they're going? Let's take a look at it. For example, hope in the seen. It's said that hope in the seen isn't really hope. Now think about it. How so? Think about it. You hope for a raise, right? You get it. Now that hope is ended, you have to hope for something else. Hope I can get this money to pay down some bills. You may pay down the bills, and once again, that hope is ended and others starts. You hope now that you have paid down the bills, that you can afford a new car. You buy the new car on credit. So once again, your hope is fulfilled. Yet, once again, you're in debt. Sounds like a vicious circle. It appears that the only thing that is true hope is that what you can't see or obtain in the seen. Because in the seen, once it's seen, it ends for you. Whereas if it was unseen, it'd always be. Your eye could never see it, nor your ear hear of it. Sounds ridiculous, right? Not really. Let me explain. Now, Paul said that. Hope seen is not hope. But hope not seen, that's hope. That verse has always puzzled me. Well, I asked God about it, and he gives answers, and I'm trying to share some of those answers with you now. So this is some of the answer he gave to me. He says, let's just suppose that our world was subjected to what we might call an unreality. Well, read Romans 8, and you see that. The King James word uses the word futility, but you get into a deeper translation of that word, futility, and means unreality. So let's suppose that our world is subjected to what might be called an unreality. So unreal that everything that you gained or accomplished in the world wouldn't really be gained or accomplished, like an illusion. It would only be considered an illusion or gain or accomplishment. Now, your being in this unreality, you might not know this, so it would fall for its unreality over and over again. As a matter of fact, it would be proposed by all around you that this same unreality to be a reality. This is real. You might find a few strange ones who might see it differently, like myself, I would say that this is unreal. This world is not the true reality. The true reality is beyond time, space, and material world. I've written about that at great length in From Whence We Came We Must Return, another book I'm working on, that deals with, eternal matters. And what's real and what's unreal. I even go into expressing how this life is like a holograph deck, You ever remember on Star Trek when they have the holograph deck? You could get so caught up in this holograph deck and this experience, right, that you forget where you came from, And the captain would have to, disrupt your pleasure and your moment of experience in this holograph, turn the machine off, and bring you back to reality. That's what's going to happen. We're going to be brought back to reality suddenly. Ones who may have wakened to the fact of this unreality, having had just a glimpse, what we might call the true reality, they would say to you what I said above about these things of the unseen not being hope. So now do you understand what this statement of this seen not being hope means? It just isn't true hope. The seen idea, as in the sense that if you really gain or accomplish real hope, you would wake up to the unreality that you're living in and start hoping what others would consider unseen. Finding this hope, you would never thirst again. So I continue writing here that my friend, is what real hope has to offer in comparison to hope in the seen. But the truth of the matter is that we really love the illusion rather than true reality. Remember in the movie The Matrix, where Cypher wanted to go back into the Matrix? He didn't like the so-called real world. He wanted to live in the illusion of the Matrix. I got a lot of insights off that movie, The Matrix. I got another. I don't know if I can put the book out. You'd have to get permission to utilize their writings and the movie itself. So if I ever put it out, it'll be free to anybody who wants it on this. I call it Spiritual Insights from the Matrix. So I'll continue, but the truth of the matter is that we really love the illusion rather than this true reality. It's the reason why we will never be satisfied in this life. The same reason why we will be constantly hoping to no end. Hope in the seen world never ends when it comes to satisfaction, whereas the hope in the unseen once for all satisfies us and never ends, in that it continue will fulfill who we are, eternal beings. Temporal beings will never be satisfied. So we are a spiritual being, have a temporal experience, It's not the other way around. Not a temporal being trying to have a religious experience. So I say temporal beings will never be satisfied, and I ask the question why. Time is a matter to them, whereas for an eternal being, time doesn't matter. Why do we go into debt, for example, right? Because you have got to have it now. Hope I can get it. You fulfill your hope, or do you? Did you hope that you could go into debt? No. You just wanted this new car and you got to have it now. That got you into debt. Hope in the seen could have waited. You do have forever in that. So I did this. I picked this up the other day and I filled it in here. Next time you say this famous phrase when working on a project, this is going to take forever. Say to yourself, I have forever. You do, We do. I mean, that's helped me many times. I'll say that, and I'm getting tired of doing something. I said, boy, this is going to take forever. And I say to myself, I got forever. It gives me perseverance and the ability to continue on. So that's some of the highlights I've got, which adds to the chapters that you've been listening to. I hope you got something out of this.